Yo, it's your boy Harmony H Money Samuels, and you just see me speak my truth on Afrobeats Intelligence.
Afrobeats Intelligence podcast.
Afrobeats Intelligence, democratizing African music.
It's good to see you, man. I have so much respect for what you've been able to do,
Man,
with yourself, and for the culture.
Listen, the feeling's mutual. We have, I say, God has created people to individually do great things for a bigger purpose. You know what I mean?
Interesting. But with you, a lot of what you have is I see you as a man of intersections.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
Both personal and career.
Yeah.
So when I look at your personal intersections, I see you born to Nigerian parents.
Yes, sir.
In Tottenham.
Yes, sir.
And then having to make your way and build a new life in the US.
Yeah. That was tough.
That's all intersections.
Yeah. a lot of interceptions to the point my accent's confused.
True. Do you get a lot of, what do you usually hear about your accent?
Where the hell are you from? You sound American, you sound British, you sound Nigerian, you sound Jamaican. Just confused.
Have you ever, how do you navigate between all accents? Do you have to, I know a lot of it is subconscious, but like, have you ever been in situations where you've had to subconsciously code switch or accent switch?
Yeah, definitely. When I moved to America, when I moved to Los Angeles, it was probably the thing I had to adapt to real fast, because when you would speak with a thick British accent, they would be like, huh? What? And it was the first place you would they would misunderstand everything you said. So, London is very good at, we're very open to, hey, love, how you doing? Hey, babe. Yeah. You can't do that out there, because if you say to a girl, hey, love, she's telling the whole country you love her. It's like, yo, bro, like, I just was being polite, but politeness is literal for them. So I had to learn, you know what I mean? Or if I say certain words like tomatoes or, you know what I'm saying? Butter.
Yeah.
Or water. They'd be like, water. Like,
water.
So like,
how do you guys
can I get some water?
Yeah.
Butter. And so I had to learn to adapt to that because it was very frustrating for a long time. Like, it's funny, we can make jokes, but when you're living it, it's difficult, because you start to feel like you're an outcast because people don't know how to relate to you. And it's kind of separated. And it was also a struggle for me, because I was already separated in London as a Nigerian born, right? Sure. To immigrants who were trying to figure their way, in a country where, being Nigerian wasn't the coolest back then. You know what I'm saying? Like, we hid our identity for many reasons.
Yeah, back then.
So, now everybody's Nigerian.
Huh. When did you start feeling accepted in LA?
I don't think I've ever been accepted in LA. I think...
Why? The scoreboard shows you are.
I think my career puts me next to a lot of different people. Okay. But I think my personal characteristics and mindset separates me. You know what I'm saying? And
in what sense? I want to know.
Let me go deeper into that. So, I'm a church boy.
Yeah.
I'm heavy in the church.
Yeah.
And I ride a lot of different kind of like lanes.
Yeah.
And when they can't pigeonhole you into a space, like I said, you become like an outcast.
Yeah.
Because what I noticed when I went over there, first thing they want to do is pigeonhole me.
Yeah.
Oh, you do R&B, and then I'll do Maroon 5. Oh, you do pop, and then I'll do Future, or I'll do Keisha Cole and Lil Wayne.
Yeah.
And then they'll say, oh, you do R&B and hip hop, and I was like, then I'll go and do Say Yes for Destiny's Child, and it was just used to frustrate everybody, because it's like, what do you do?
But don't you think it's also been a strong part of why you have such an extensive discography.
Yeah, listen, I remember praying one day and saying, God, why am I British? Why am I Nigerian? And why am I in Los Angeles? It's very confusing.
Yeah.
But I feel over the years going through my career, I realized if I wasn't born the way I was and I hadn't experienced the places I had lived and was raised in, I probably wouldn't have been able to do what I've done, you know?
Yeah.
Because, you know, I believe outside of Nigeria, the UK is a Nigerian's hub.
True. I agree.
It's like mini Nigeria.
How about Houston, Texas?
I think that's the second hub, in which, you know, I believe I have a new connection with Houston. We just did me and Amplified Africa just did a party in Houston.
Yes.
And for 3 days, I was just like, am I in Nigeria? I don't think I spoke English without speaking broken English or Yoruba one time. The whole weekend, I was just like, yo, this is exciting. And made me feel closer to my culture, which is something that is very, very important as I get older.
We're talking about your culture. I look at your discography, and something that stands out a lot is Kili Love.
The foundation.
Why did you call it the foundation?
It was the first time I saw what I deemed the future of Afrobeat come to life.
Huh.
And when I say the future of it in the sense of sonically and visually, how I wanted us to compete with pop culture, and I wanted us to compete with the Americans and the Brits.
What did Tiwa Savage do right there?
I think the biggest thing she did was presentation.
Okay.
Presentation, she presented it as if she was one of those artists. I think we hadn't seen it at that level at that point. I mean, we're talking 2010, 11.
Yeah.
Sesson, who I also grew up with, shot the video. And so it was interesting to see this idea or pushing this narrative of where evolving the look and the sound. So when I mean the sound, like Afrobeats, there's so many people who've laid the foundation for it. You know, King Don Jazzy, you know what I'm saying, D'banj, you know, Two-Face, and the ones that came before.
Yeah.
You know, those guys really, really helped us understand our culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they made it young and they made it fun. And I think what was happening for us as the diaspora was we were also working in pop and R&B culture.
Yeah.
And there were things that was disconnecting when we would play it to them. So I'm playing them.
What was disconnecting?
Sounds. Like the sound was disconnecting for them. So pop culture.
So over there, so if you would say, you know, you work within both cultures. Yeah. So how do they approach sound that's way different from us?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the main things was just the drum syncopations.
Okay.
Like hip hop drum syncopations, R&B drum syncopations, pops, they're very, very straight and simple. You know, not too many sounds, not too many things happening, and kind of like, yeah, just like it's not even like that's still syncopated,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Like it's kind of like very syncopated, and you can almost like robotically follow it, right?
Yeah,
and that's also because, and I'm going to say this real respectfully, the colonization of cultures kind of programs your mind to hear things and feel things a particular way.
Yeah.
Right? If you're a black kid and you are raised in a white school or raised in a white neighborhood, you don't relate to black people the same way.
Yeah.
So, do you understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
So, if you're African, right, there's ways that we hear music.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? There's things that we're paying attention to in music. That's why our dances is so strong. Our bodies move. Everything is involved from our heads to our toes, right?
Sure.
But then when you start to look at more westernized cultures, you see how more rigid it was back in the day. Still very like fly, because that's what we do as black people. But it's still, there was like a mechanism in it that kind of made it robotic, and that comes from the music. It's not as free flow. you know.
Yeah.
I mean, up to how many years were we still playing? We're still using live bands in our recordings.
Yeah.
It wasn't as, but in America, it was very, you know, machine driven, studio driven.
Yeah.
So when we would play stuff to them, it was like the rhythms would throw them off. You could see it in their face, and you know, I was still listening to, you know, P Squared and
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? I'm listening to the Banj, I'm listening to all my Afro beats in America whilst working on Maroon 5 and Chipmunk and, you know, Chris Brown. And, you know, you would play and you could see that they struggled with understanding it. Part of it was like I said, sonics was different, drum sounds, synth sounds, and me and Tiwa was like, yo, if we could elevate it so that we could maybe utilize their sounds and utilize their instrumentation, and their sonics and the technology that we had access to, we could maybe elevate, you know,
that was one of her first hits. That was one of her first hits. It worked locally.
Yeah, and I was shocked because you have to understand, we're in the studio working on Fantasia Barrino's album, right?
Yeah.
And she turns around and says, bro, I'm going to Nigeria. Because she had been trying to be an artist in the UK and she tried to be an artist in America. And like I said, they like to do this thing, pigeonhole you.
Yeah.
And they was like, no, you know, we think you're more of a songwriter. She's like, me, songwriter. And one thing I have to give my sis credit for is she really believed when no one else believed. You know what I mean? Like and she was in the space. She was working with everybody, writing for Fantasia, writing for, you know, Beyonce and whoever else was around. So when we were working together, we was working on pop songs. We was working on records for Rihanna. We was working on records for Chris. And Fantasia in particular, she's like, I'm going to Nigeria. I was like, well, I don't know if that's a good idea because, you know, the PR I got is Nigeria doesn't have an industry.
Yeah.
You sure? And she was like, they're not letting me in here. So I'm going to go somewhere where I can take everything I've learned and create something that isn't necessarily there. And I was like, okay, you crazy, but okay. Because I'm one to support someone in their dreams. I love doing that. That's my goal, to support the dream. If you believe, I'm going to believe. And so that's what we did. So she said, but do me this favor. And I'm going to give her credit for this because, you know, people don't give people credits. She was like, see those sounds that you're using for that. And in that, I think at that time I had these drum sounds and synth sounds. I just finished working on a record to send to Rock Nation for Rihanna. She's like, use those sounds and put Afro on the top of it. And I was like, all right, cool, that's easy. And so 10 minutes later, and you know, it came to me easy. So I just took everything else that could have been a distraction and focused on the simplicity. And I went out, so I was like, this is how they would make hip hop, just with our rhythm. And then added the synth sounds and added all the other sounds and found ways to kind of like manipulate it to feel like it's maybe pop or R&B. Yeah. And then she came with that pen and wrote Kele Kele. And I was just like, yo. I mean, we recorded it out in LA. Like the presentation was like we putting out an R&B record. And I was like, yo, we may have done something new. True. And, you know, you have to be careful because you don't want to, like, we're not the first to, I'm not claiming we're the first to do anything. I just think we evolved it. Yeah. We did our part to evolve it. And she said, yeah, I'm out. She shot the video. I was at the video shoot, shot the video. And she was like, yeah, I'm going to Nigeria, man. I see you. 2 years later, she's on a Pepsi can. Yeah. And I'm in London, traveling to London to do some work. And I'm at a party. Yeah. And it's like 250 people in this party. And they're playing. And I can hear the evolving of Afrobeat. And they play Kele Kele. And I'm like, yo.
That's my record. That's my record.
So I'm laughing because I'm like, I walked up to DJ and I was like, bro. He said, yo, yeah, this is the new vibe, bro. And I'm looking at him like, I made this record. He's like, you made this? He's like, bro, you might have done something new, bro. This is crazy. He wheeled that thing back 12 times. And I was like, there might be something going on. So that was kind of like the foundation of like, maybe there is something that we can do to kind of bridge the gap between America, UK, and Africa and Nigeria. And so there it is. So she calls me again. She's like, one more again. I said, what do you want to do? She's like, we're going to do it again. And then she came to studio and we did Love Me. That one was even easier for me because now I'm like, oh, I'm definitely going to like, I added a whole bridge. I was like, I went to church on that one. I went musically left on that one. And I love Tiwa for adapting. Yeah. She knows how to kind of like, she was taking Yoruba, she was taking English. She was doing brandy harmony, like it was, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
it was,
you know what I'm saying? It was a gumbo pot. It was unique, you know what I mean? And I think that we needed it at that time. And even though it wasn't like a global smash as it did, I think it gave people the ability to see what could come next.
True.
And she surely became significant.
So you knew this was happening back then.
Yeah.
You played your role in adding to the evolution of it. Yeah. Now we are at the point where that evolution is we've cracked global pop framework. We have Afrobeats to the world.
We have Burner who's doing arenas that artists can't do.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Exactly. And you've also contributed. You did Love Rhythm. Yeah. With Rotimi. Uh-huh. How does that make you feel? Seeing that we've gotten to this point from where we were before as a culture.
This is gonna be a deep answer.
Yeah.
It just means that anything we put our minds to as a culture, we can do.
Okay.
And dreams can really come true. And the state of Nigeria and Africa and just our Africans as a whole.
Yeah.
There's a great opportunity for us to be one of the greatest nations in the world. And this here proves it.
Yeah.
Because remember going number one from here? Billboard Hot 100? Do you know how hard that is?
Yeah.
It's not a joke. It's not easy.
It's not.
It's not 10, not 15, not 20, not 5. Number one in the world. A brand new artist. We never seen you before. That let me know that the world is changing and changing fast.
Yeah.
And I'm joyed, I'm excited. I thank God that he gave me the ability to be a part and do some work in it and do my part in it, you know, whether it's relevant to someone or not, you know, significant. I know that I've played a role in it, and I know that I've been working hard the best way I could to bridge the gap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you have to understand, my first time in Nigeria was only 2 years ago. And someone was saying, why did it take you so long to get to Nigeria? And it's like, well, bad PR. You know what I mean?
What was the PR like back then?
And I mean,
what did they tell you?
I mean, my parents firstly were afraid for me to come to Nigeria.
Why?
Who knows? I don't know. I wasn't here. You know what I mean? Two things was bad about the PR back growing up. One, I think because they were afraid, they had worked so hard to get to the UK, they were afraid of coming back home, right? Because they had figured out how to find some kind of success for themselves.
Yeah.
Two, they used that as a threat. If you don't behave yourself there, I will drop you in Nigeria. What? One day, they'll beat you there. So then you're like, oh, I don't want to ever go to Nigeria.
Yeah.
And then as you get older, I mean, PR is in local conversations.
Yeah.
The deaths and the, like, you know, the juju, like there's so many things, the fraud, like there's so many things that people said as a child growing up. And people don't understand, when you're a child and you're growing up, information is heavy. That's why the Bible always says, be careful what you say, right? You got to be careful how you speak. Yeah. So as you're growing up, you're hearing this energy being spoken about a place that you desire, like you love so much. Like I would play King Sunny a day at home. I speak Yoruba fluently because of the music. I don't speak it because someone taught me, or I can read it. because the music I listened to, from Orlando or to Ebenezer Obey to King Son, like to the point where when Sonny Okosun came to London, I was allowed to play drums for him for a year as he toured.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I was engulfed in the community and the culture, but the PR kept me away from it. And then the older I got, it went from, I don't think I can. You know what I'm saying? And it just never became a desire no more. And it's like, I'll figure out how to do it from wherever I am.
What convinced you that it was time to come back?
The shift. You
could feel it in the US.
I could feel, yeah, we could feel the shift in the US and in the UK. But not only the shift, I mean, I witnessed my sister, Tiwa, have a dream and tell me, I'm going to Nigeria. And there was nothing of the sort at that time. The next minute, 2 years later, you're on a Pepsi can. You send me the ad, you're on a Pepsi can. 5 years later, I can't even get in the room because you've got fans screaming at the door. 10 years later, you like singing for the king.
Yeah.
That's the queen of Afrobeat. I mean, that's
a good way to track her.
Bro, like that's like I'm like first in line to watch someone make their dream come true because of where they're from. So in reverse, I just was like, okay, I got to get over this fear. And take a step. And also because of what I want to do, I don't believe I went to LA to just be a music producer and be successful and become an entrepreneur. I honestly believe I went there to learn some things because I can't impart knowledge to people if I don't have the knowledge myself.
Sure.
So I feel like this is the best time to help industrialize our country in the industry and teach how to be successful as a producer. I mean, I've been producing 25 years, you know what I mean? And I've been on the charts for half of that. So I have to teach that to these kids who are looking at me every day on my Instagram thinking, I want to be just like you. My story's just like you. My parents didn't want me to do music just like you. Yeah. And you inspire me every day reading your story, hearing your story. So I didn't get the information. I had to go through years and years of pain, deceit, loss, hurt, no's, rejection to get it. And if I can impart that knowledge in some of these kids who have a disadvantage. I was raised in the UK, so my education level was a little different, right? I went to all white Catholic school, so I know I had to deal with the Caucasian man, right? And other cultures. But if you're a young kid from Nigeria who's never seen, the other side of the world, that could be scary.
Sure.
And I think if it's only right for us to help industrialize the industry and give knowledge and give education and give wisdom, give access, give opportunity to the culture to come, because that's how we keep it alive. If we don't do it, it's gonna die, like the other genres that had moments.
True. And that's something I talk about all the time with how we are treating this culture, especially at this pivotal moment.
Yes, sir.
I believe we've been blessed.
Amen.
And I believe we've been blessed to do more beyond servicing a single generation of artists.
Yes, sir.
With this opportunity.
Yes, sir.
And so when I think of Afrobeats now, I think about it in terms of with perspective of what has happened to other cultures. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, how do we make sure we stick? Long enough to stick forever.
I mean, number one, I think you have played a big role in keeping us informed.
Yeah.
And kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
And for making sure we don't get lazy with success. Because the problem with when we succeed, it's like, I'm going to bring this up. Don't take it the wrong way, Nigeria. When we beat South Africa in the African Nations Cup, we got too comfortable because we lost the next game.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, right?
And that was a bigger game.
And it was a bigger game, and it was the game we needed to win, right?
Sure.
And we made so much fun of South Africa in that moment. And I just was, and while they're making fun, I'm like, hey, they're going to beat us in this game, because it's the irony, right? Sod's law.
Yeah.
And I think my concern is if we don't have people who are willing to tell us the truth, as well as those who are going to support us in our success, we're going to fail. Like a lot of other genres, which I don't need to bring up. We've seen them, right? We've seen those ones where it's like, oh, it's this time or it's that time, and everybody in pop culture and R&B culture, hip-hop culture is doing it, and they're mixing it in their music. We've seen it. We experienced it. Yeah. We saw those artists have moments, but where are they today?
Well, independently, even thinking something else that hits me is, this year, I began to do a lot of research. I spoke to Clarence Peters. He just called me one day.
Okay.
Yeah, he just called me one day, and he's like, Joey, go back to the 70s. Go to the 80s. Go to the 70s and 80s of Nigerian music. Do your study and come back. Yeah. I went to the 70s and 80s and I discovered that everything that's happening now has happened to us before.
Yes, it has.
All the big labels were here from the 1970s, like they stayed for a decade plus.
Yes, sir.
And tried to make sure this happens.
Yes, sir.
And after a while, they all left.
Yes, sir.
Epic was here, Interscope.
Yep.
Ebenezer Obey, KSA was signed to Island Records.
Sonny Ade was signed to I think Sony.
Yeah, Majek Fashek was Interscope. Sonny Ade did Island Records, and he did a couple more others. We had all their offices here, boots on the ground, and they didn't just come with offices; they came with their pressing plants for the vinyls.
Yes, sir. You know, Clarence would say that because
his father
of his dad,
his father,
right?
that was his childhood.
Father,
his father experienced it personally from home.
His dad was a part of that generation. I mean, his dad brought that new energy, which was Fuji, and they brought that whole vibe coming up, right? Yeah. And so I can understand why Clarence would be like, go do the research. I mean, I remember watching a Sonny Ade concert.
Yes, so they did Glastonbury.
It's like, it was like 80,000 people, and in white people, and this man is up there with his whole band.
Recently, I was watching a podcast, listening to a podcast during my workout, and it was Tucker Carlson on Joe Rogan, and Tucker Carlson says, "I love music, I love drummers. I think one of the best drummers I know on earth is King Sunny Ade." I'm like, no, that is a full artist.
It's a full band, bro.
Yeah, and he's like, no, he loves him for his drumming.
Not realizing what... I mean, listen, I think, once again, it's down to PRing. Hold on, I'm going to top you up real quick.
Yeah, thank you.
You got it.
Thank you. I wanted to get it.
I need you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I'm not really drinking right now because, you know, I'm still kind of like getting my groove into Nigeria. The jet lag's kicking my butt. But... yeah, this is my tequila called Vuelo. And
how long have you had this?
We started this in 2019. Went to market 2021. Yeah. And we're doing incredibly well in California. We've won all kinds of awards. And right here we have the Blanco.
Yeah.
Which is the clear. Right here, this is one of the best. This one's called Añejo.
Añejo.
I'm saying if you're a cigar drinker, this is definitely the best.
Añejo. I like how it sounds.
Well, it's Mexican, right? So, and I mean, a tequila is a Latin American drink, as you know,
the agave
and the CEO Brevin, who brought me on with his partner Alex, really loves our culture. And when they brought me on as one of the creative directors and here you go, bro.
Thank you.
When he brought me on, he really wanted me to really kind of like bring it to my culture. Yeah. Especially because of what we're doing in the Afrobeat scene. So, people see it. You know what I mean? What's happening. They see the shift and they want their products to be a part of it. They want their cultures to be a part of it. And I always laugh because I always think Latin Americans and Africans are very similar. Their rhythms, their energy. You know what I'm saying? There's still things that make them different. But listen, Janet Jackson and Daddy Yankee, right?
Sure.
When I did that record, Made for Now, that was one of the first times where I was like, let's see how this goes down. And mind you, every time I get the opportunity to
Unite cultures.
Unite cultures and expose our culture in pop culture.
Yeah.
I take it all the way, right? And so Janet's called me and said, yo, can you work on a single for me?
Yeah.
Shout out to my boy JQ for connecting me on that. And I'm like, huh? You want me to do what? And you have to understand how intimidating that is. You know, I met Janet, the first time I met Janet, she was working with my mentor and the guy who discovered me, Rodney Darkchild Jerkins, right? Yeah. So imagine being the small young guy in the studio, and he's in the studio with Janet. Then almost 7 years later, you're in the studio with Janet.
For you.
For me, myself. And I'm just like, she's like, yeah, I need you to make me my next single. And I was like, because she hadn't put a record out in a while, you know. And I was very uncomfortable.
Why she choose you? Did she tell you why?
Honestly, my discography had done that. I think she had seen that I was international. Yeah. You know, I wasn't just a hip hop producer or R&B producer, but I kind of knew how to make it work across the globe. And a lot of my records were not, you know, local or, you know, territorial. They're very global. You know what I mean? Where you could go to a non-English speaking country and you're gonna hear my records. I remember being in Croatia and going through the airport and hearing my record. I was like,
really?
Oh, okay, all
that's
right,
nice.
That's a beautiful feeling.
2023. I was looking at your 2023 records that you've contributed to and what they did on your Spotify rap.
Yeah,
and that's you had over 235 million plays, 14 million listeners.
Yes, sir.
What other stat did I see? They were just beautiful.
You probably know them more than me. I try not to look at stats because I don't want it to be like.
Well, but I have to. I have to look at them because in music now, numbers are impact.
Listen, and I realize that numbers are impacting more based on, you know, Jay-Z says men lie, women lie, numbers don't, and I mean it's factual, you know. I think for me, seeing my numbers correlate with what I did in the music business assures me that I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And because a lot of what I did was intentional. Like it wasn't like I figured it out or I just stumbled across it or I was just in the studio and trying different things. I literally have, well, firstly, one thing I grateful that I was raised as a Nigerian is that my relationship with God is strong.
Okay.
So God's always the center of my conversation, no matter who I'm working with.
Yeah.
And even with the Janet song, I remember waking up in that morning of the week. We had been working in the studio a whole week. I had all my producers, writers. I was like, just come studio, we're just going to create. And by the third day, I kept saying, this woman, we pulled up her discography and we pulled up her numbers and we were just like, how? What are we small boys gonna do? This woman has had number one since the 80s.
Yeah.
And been going from 80s, 90s, 2000 hits number one. I think she's got probably one of the most number ones in the world.
Yeah,
she's up, you know, so and now, you know, I'm supposed to create this masterpiece for her that's somewhat of a comeback. I was like, there's no way.
How'd you get Daddy Yankee there?
So after we did the record, so a couple of things that took place before we got to the Yankee, which is why Yankee was the final kind of like piece.
Yeah.
I make the song. I pray. I hear this beautiful melody that I feel like was put in the heavens for me to catch. We record it. I tell everybody this is gonna be the record. Everybody looks at me and goes, "Nah, it's not." And I had to. And the reason why I made an Afrobeat record, well, it's like a high life record, right?
Yeah.
Was because I was like, that's the only thing she had never done.
Okay.
Like I'd gone through, I was like, okay, she's never touched, she has never been on this side of the planet. That's the only way I can do something that she's never done that's gonna be significant. So we made a song called Made for Now after she gave me a description of it can't be sexual, it can't be this. Like she gave me a list of things, don'ts.
Did they do that?
Yeah, especially because she's no longer like 25 years old. She's a little older, so she can't be like walking around with.
So they give you a list to guide
of what they want. Yeah, so she did for sure. She told me she didn't want no sexual. nothing too sexual, nothing too, provocative. She wanted a song that connected people. She wanted a song that made people dance.
Did you have it on the wall while you were working?
You already know. Stressed out, looking at it every day.
No way.
Yes. Jesus. How we gonna do this one again? So it was after we make the record, and I literally know this is gonna be a record. They send it to her, and she says, "I love this," and she knew immediately. So we go into the studio with.
Did she know it was High Life?
Yeah, she knew. She was like, it was almost like she knew that that's where she wanted to go, but she didn't want to say it. Because, a lot of times as well, Americans don't want to seem like they're culture vulturing.
Yeah.
So, and we're talking 2017.
Yeah, true.
So it's like we could see this bubble happening, but I don't know if we fit in yet. We haven't been invited yet. So when I invited them to it, it was kind of like, yes. And then when we got Daddy Yankee, what we discussed, and this is where A&R and teamwork is that it opens the conversation. So now it goes from high life to reggaeton. So now we're putting these worlds together. And if you ever watch the video, that's why they did it in Harlem. It's like Harlem's a gumbo pot of cultures, from Haitians to Africans, Nigerians to Latin Americans. And that's why we did it there. And, it's actually me singing, "Everybody Move Your Body."
For real?
I'm actually in the video, too. I'm in the second scene, standing right behind her. But I knew this was another opportunity to help elevate our music into pop culture. Because if someone like Janet's doing it, someone like Beyonce and, Michelle and Kelly are doing it, when we did Say Yes, it just opens our ears up to like, okay, not this side, that side. Because that side is, it's hard to break. They're used to what they're used to. They don't very change. If you ever watch them, they like, the UK I love so much because we can create genres in our sleep.
Yeah.
From drum and bass.
Yeah. Sure.
Funky house. Sure. I was alive to watch these genres be created. In America, it's still hip hop, R&B, pop, country. And it hasn't changed, Even drill isn't an American thing. That's a UK thing, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
we are the.
I like how you say they are, we are.
We are. Do you know what I'm saying? and the reason why is because I know
you're all a part of it.
I'm a part of it, right? So I remember when Garage first came. You know what I mean? And we was in the clubs as teenagers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Listening to So Solid. And, it evolving to Craig David and Dynamite, and then it evolving again. And, then you can hear the Afrobeat started to come in with Doneo and, and then we're talking 2006, 8. Sure. This is before the UK was always open to new sounds, right? But America's just like, nah, bro, we ain't doing it.
So Afrobeats, and this is something that gets to me when I think of how. That's why I value how much we have come with Afrobeats to the world, cracking the global pop framework and inserting ourselves there. A question I always ask is, what gives us longevity?
Expansion.
And what does expansion look like?
Well, number one, we have to make sure our infrastructure, our foundation in which business can be done is intact, exists. Talent is great, but talent comes and goes.
True.
As we've seen in the last 10 years. Like, we've had, like, when I look at the Afrobeat playlists on Apple and Spotify, I just be like, who are these kids? Like, where they coming from? To the point where we don't, as Africans, don't even know these kids and where they're coming from. Sure. There's so many. But they're all struggling because they don't have foundational pieces for them to be able to grow. Hip-hop, when it came out, it started off as a cool, vibe, and it was a street thing, and everybody was partying. But once it got industrialized and there was a way to turn it into a financial institution, it became the biggest genre of music in the world, and it hasn't left yet.
Yeah, because culture can only expand when the economics supports it.
The economics has to support it. And it has to support it in the place it originates from.
True.
I don't think it can support it in Europe, and I don't think it can support it in America, because I think when you do it that way, you're leaving the door open for them to tell you yes or no when they feel like.
Yeah.
But if there's an infrastructure and a foundation built in the places that it's created in, we dictate.
Yeah, we can only invite people in.
You dictate, and you tell how we go on. And I think one of the other problems is we actually have some of the most intelligent people in the business over here. Don Jazzy is probably I will call him my Jimmy Iovine.
Yeah.
Right? He's a new Jimmy Iovine to me.
Yeah.
And when you've got people like that, we got to get behind him and help him, because he's proven the theory. He's proven that it works. He's proven like I can do this consistently over and over and over again and create superstars. And we need to figure out how to make sure the economics stays here.
Yeah.
So we can have a healthy one.
For me, the economic part of this is very crucial to me for one reason.
Yeah.
When I studied the past, the only reason why I look at capital, and capital in music is rarely patient, especially exploratory capital. Yeah, it's rarely patient, or especially capital that presents itself as investment, but it's a vehicle to benefit from the expansion of a culture.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm not under any illusions about why everyone's investing here, why the boots are on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
Never. I'm not. It's beneficial.
Yeah.
For us to make sure we build generational, we have to find a way to make sure this stays beneficial in a numbers sense.
Yes, sir. And it starts
Like
with...
we have to find a way to bring profit back.
Yes, sir. And I mean, number one, I always try and use, other things that have happened before.
Yeah.
So when we look at hip hop, where was it originated? New York.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, hip hop stayed in New York, and it was able to institutionalize itself and grow and create its foundation because it stayed in New York. Other places did it, LA, but even LA came to New York. Yeah. When Dre and them was looking for their deal, they didn't just sit in LA. They had to come to New York. You know what I'm saying? New York was the hub. Even me, before I ended up moving to LA, which kind of came later, we was in New York.
Yeah.
And because that's the foundation of hip hop, whether anybody wants to believe it or not. And I feel like Afrobeat especially needs to stay in Nigeria. And we need the companies, our smaller companies, Maven and other companies, Olamide's company.
YBNL.
You know what I'm saying? And
Chocolate
Prince's,
City, Jones and World.
We need them to keep the money here.
Yeah.
And we need them to, or find ways to make sure the money over there is helping here. Yeah. Even if you're not keeping it here. Because I know banking is another whole other conversation. Yeah. But a way to keep it here and expand it. And how you expand it is by what you build around. Studios.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there's more creativeness.
Venues.
Event places. Yeah. And the more you put money into these places, that gives opportunity for these people to experience, the more. And the thing I love about Nigerians is we are supporters. When we support to the death.
Yes, we do.
Right? Because
yes,
sometimes I'll be like, how is this person this big? Because Nigeria is behind it.
Yeah, true.
How is this person survive? Because Nigeria is behind it.
Because it's Nigerian.
Because it's Nigerian. You know, so the supporting mechanism of a Nigerian and the Nigerian community is there. Yeah. We have to give them something though. And we have to give them, and I think, like I said, we have to change the PR in, hey, it's Nigeria now. Just stop that. We got to get past that, right? Mm-hmm. We know we have problems. Yeah. At what point do we start making changes to those problems? When do we start building instead of tearing down? When do we can't just accept it's okay where it is. We have to now go further. And I think the youth want it bad. Like the kids, they're like, there's more. And, the internet is helping that, because when you're seeing people in America and you're seeing people, you want to live like that.
Sure.
You want to experience that. You want to touch that. But what I don't want it to be is that I have to leave to get it when we can help create it. Because those places, look, slavery was over in America too. Black people that we're looking at, that we can look at over there and be like, oh, culture. They had it hard too.
True.
But they fought and they built.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't have Tyler Perry's in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
True.
Yeah. Since Jay-Z, there's been 4 or 5 more billionaires. So the mindset's changing. So it starts with us implementing, putting infrastructure, putting these offices in the place, giving the people who are helping, Don Jazzy, Chocolate City, Olamide, YBNL, like all these places, the ability to expand and grow, and supporting it, getting behind it, and making sure they're brands, because they're brands. Def Jam was a brand. Like it wasn't, Rockefeller was a brand. Sure. Rough Riders was a brand. Like you went to those places and they were part of corporate America, but corporate America could never get involved and dictate what it is. It had to go to culture. And if we don't empower those people who know the business, who understand the business, who can teach the business, and we just all hustling and bustling ourselves, I'm going to do it myself, you're going to fail. And then the industry's going to fall on its back, as corporate knows. You know what I mean? Because they're going to milk it until they can.
True. And
they're going to move on. Like they did reggae music and bashment music and other forms of music. And then when it's done, then they move on. And I think Latin Americans have figured it out because they kept a lot of things of their own.
Yes, they did.
Grammys have the Latin American Grammys. They just have so much.
They have their numbers. Yes. They have their local numbers.
Listen, they don't need us, bro.
True.
They don't need culture.
Yes.
So culture is going to them. They don't need America. Yeah. America's going to them.
Yeah, because America can benefit from them.
So we have to kind of take up that mindset. Like, we don't need you. You need us. And we're going to show you how. And we're going to make sure we have these things in place. And when it's ours, it's ours. We're not sharing it. We're allowing you to partake in it.
Yeah.
The moment they think they can own it because we need something.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. At the point that you're willing to sell, once they figure out our price, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, what's the price? Go back. Give them 20 million. Oh, that's not the price. All right. Give them 40 million. They'll keep going until you crack.
Yeah.
Because ownership for them is always the most important thing. Yeah. That's it. Yes. Every label in America right now that was in hip hop culture has been bought out.
Yeah. Sure.
Every one of them. Why? Because ownership was always important to the guys ahead.
Yeah, but down here we started seeing that. We started seeing them buy us out.
I mean, I'm seeing it. And my fear is that they'll buy us out and then drown us out. And I don't want us to get drowned out. And so my role, I feel, is to help start the conversation on how we can industrialize. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I built multiple studios, outside of being a music producer.
Yeah.
I have a huge studio in Los Angeles called London Bridge. Reekado recorded his album there. T-Wood recorded Kele Kele there.
Yeah.
We've got another place we working at called Fab Factory.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And my dream is to build those kind of things here, in Nigeria, where you can walk in and be like, not only can I create and make high quality music from recording to mixing, but I can also have the relationships. When I was working in record plant, I would walk through the hallway and Chris Brown would be in one room, and Neil would be in another room, and some other Keisha Cole might be in another room, and Kanye West could be in another room. And in that moment right there, I've got access to 4 different opportunities that could change my life.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the creative hub, and we need to create that.
Beautiful. You're also here with, with a new path, creative path. Once again, I started this entire conversation by saying you're a man of intersections.
Yes, sir.
And a very specific intersection you have now is the next iteration of your creative endeavors?
Yeah.
Afro R&B.
Yeah, Fro and B. Yeah. Fro and B.
Afro R&B.
Yeah.
Where does Afrobeats or our pop music, our local language and R&B, where do they meet? What's the central spot?
I don't know. There's so many. You know, since I've landed in Nigeria, the first thing I told my job is turn the radio up.
Okay.
And one thing I love about this country is y'all taste in music, our taste in music is so vast.
Yeah.
So wide. You would hear songs like How Would I Live? How would I live without you?
Yep.
And then you're listening to Afrobeat.
Yes.
It's like, you know what I'm saying? Then I Will Always Love You by Whitney. Like it's powerful. It's actually you can actually like do some spiritual healing if you know what I mean, if you pay attention. True. And I believe that because of poverty in some sense, music's been the thing that elevates a lot of people. Even, even in the churches and everything else. So as a child growing up, listening to all these different records and songs from Michael Jackson, Thriller, Off the Wall, to King Sunny Ade and Ebenezer Obey. Those are the two spectrums of music that really impacted my life. And I mean, I was playing live music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I was playing the drum sets and I was playing the bass guitar, I was playing the piano every weekend.
Yeah.
To the point where I was with Sonny Okoso for a while playing for him.
For real?
Yeah. Sonny Okoso was on the road in London. We went church to church, venue to venue.
How was that?
I mean, firstly, he's a legend.
Yeah.
And I was a kid. I was like 13 years old.
For real? Playing for him?
I was playing for him. And it was like he had come to a church to sing. And I was playing the drums there. And he just was enamored by my energy and was like, wherever I sing, I need him to play. And so
that was it.
That was it. So the legend, Sonny Okosun, But I believe like R&B was a big part of my like youth. You know what I mean? Brandy, Monica, Destiny Shaw. 90s R&B was like probably the best R&B I've ever heard in my life. Jodeci, Boyz II Men.
Yeah.
And so as I got older and older, I would try and kind of like merge the two. And okay, let me use Lamba here, and let me put some R&B chords here, and then obviously Kele Kele came up, and then Love Me came up, and then started to explore with then we did Say Yes with Destiny Shaw. So as you go on, then we get to Love Rhythm, which was probably where I was like, yo, this is some R&B Afrobeat shit. You know what I'm saying? And so then I was like, yeah, this is for R&B. And wrote to me, be like, what'd you say? I said, it's for R&B. And he was like, almost. He looked at me like, what's this boy talking about? I said, it's R&B and Afrobeats mix, man. And he was like, oh, I get that. I said, and it's not like I'm just coining it that, like Teddy Riley coined New Jack Swing.
Yeah.
It's not that the sound doesn't exist from other people. It's just how I see it.
It's the application.
An application. So when I did In My Bed was when I was like, because I wanted to make sure like I knew what I was saying. And when I did In My Bed, I took this Enya sample that was huge for the Fugees, Ready or Not.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, if I can turn that into something that Nigerian African culture can understand, and the sample's gonna do enough to make Western culture understand it. I knew, because the sample was, it doesn't matter where you are. When I would DJ, that was in my DJ sets, right?
Yeah.
Do, do, do. Everybody goes crazy. I don't care where you are in the world.
Yeah.
And I told Rotimi, I said, this song will change your life. He looked at me like this. You think? I said, Love Rhythm has nothing on this song. And when we did it, and we said, there's a meeting in my bed. Listen. And it exploded for him. And I was like, I told you. He was like, how do you know that? And I was like, I honestly feel like producers are prophets. We see into the future or something, because I knew it. And it was beautiful to see, Nigerian and African culture accept it. But it's even more beautiful to see Western culture accept it and understand what we're trying to do, and then it evolves, and you hear lost, and then you start going, okay, here we go, here we go. And so as I step into, you know, another phase of my career where, you know, I'm kind of coming to the forefront because I'm not being behind the scenes, I wanted to do an album called From B.
Yeah.
And it's collaborative between all the cultures that I've experienced. It's that bridge point. So it's, you know, African culture, American culture, UK culture. So artists from the UK, artists from America, artists from here, all in the gumbo pot. And, you know, experiencing, you know, sharing, you know, these melodies and these songs and these ideas that, you know, come to me. Yeah. And it's my way, it's my way and gift to the business to kind of like, once again, an opportunity to merge the worlds again. Yeah. You know, I don't want to separate it. I don't want to see it separated. I do think we need to do some separation of our own business-wise. Yeah. But as a community, I need us to be together because we can make more money that way. We can succeed that way. The economics will show for itself that way. You know, I would love to see Burna do a concert out here and see Europeans and Americans fly to Nigeria to come watch and perform, right? So, because then what happens? Now we become, you know, there's money in the currency changes. It goes up, right? Now you start to see a difference in the city. So, you know, when Drake blew up, Canada's economy changed. Yeah. The power of one man. True. You see what I'm saying?
Even Taylor Swift changes the economy of everywhere she tours.
Do you understand what I mean? So there's a reason why we need this country to create the facilities, because I think the facilities is when we'll be able to kind of, and we have the ability.
I mean, we can be able to inhabit our blessings.
You know?
Fully.
You know, from performances to recordings to Atmos mixing to, you know, podcasts to radio stations to movies. Like, we need to build it so that we can keep it here and people can come and experience it. You know, like we go to Hollywood. You want to go see the Hollywood studios. Why can't we go see the Nigerian film studios? Why can't we see, you know what I'm saying? Why can't we go to, you know, this is where we build, you know what I mean? Like we do with the Shrine. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You know, everybody knows what that is.
Yeah, you gotta see a Nigerian film village in LA.
Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So we need to do that so that we can really start to see an economic change. So for me, From B is one of those, it's a conversation. Yeah. It's a lifestyle. So my lifestyle, it's my culture, it's my life. You know what I mean? Like it's what I've lived, right? I was an R&B boy, I was a church boy, I was a gospel musician, I was a Afrobeat, Fuji musician. Sure. You know what I mean? I'm a successful R&B and hip hop producer globally. So it only makes sense. I have relationships, you know, from Chipmunk to Skepta to, you know, Chris Brown to Ty Dolla $ign to Tiwa to, you know what I'm saying, to Wizkid. Funny enough, Wiz, the first time, you know when I knew like, okay, there's something happening. Yeah. It's like 2012 into 13.
What was happening? What happened?
I'm working in the studio with Chris Brown. Yeah. And I'm in the room and I look up and I'm like, what? He's Nigerian. I swear I know this guy. I said, bro, you Nigerian? He said, yeah. He said, you Nigerian? I was like, yeah. I said, what's your name? He said, Wiz. I said, yo. He was, what's your name? I was like, Harmony. He was like, yo. And that's why we became cool. But Chris already knew from then, like, Wiz was going to be something. You know what I'm saying?
Wiz was already big hair.
That's why I knew. That's when he says Wiz. I was like, oh my, because I was like, mobile boy. I know him. I know his face. He was already huge. But to see that he was there that early, you know what I mean? In the studio with Chris.
And the African Bad Girl.
Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I knew that shift was coming. And so seeing it from that side, I mean, from here, it's exciting to see. But seeing it from that side, you know, there's not that many of us, especially in that space.
Someone else that I think had seen it from there, not from this culture, But he's always been tapped, and I like to call him the greatest non-Nigerian Afrobeats artist was Chris.
Listen, he's seen
Chris,
it.
he's seen it forever, even when it was not a thing.
He saw it.
Chris was here.
He saw it.
Working.
He saw it. When no one else would do it, he would.
What gives a person that level of conviction?
Chris is built different.
Yeah.
I mean, he put me on, if you want to know the truth. After I got discovered.
With Chipmunk.
Yeah, he put me on. He was the one, like, me and Chipmunk worked together, and we did the Champion song, which became a huge hit.
Yeah.
And Chris took a risk, took a liking to me and took a risk on me. Like, he was just like, nah, you get it. And he just knew. I think he's got something spiritual in him that just makes him who he is. I get the comparisons why they say he's like Mike. Yeah. Not necessarily because of the performance or behavior. I think it's because there's something super great in him that's beyond the normal realm.
True.
He exudes that. Everything he does is just a little bit higher than everybody else. Okay. And I think Chris just knew a shift was coming, and he was going to be at the forefront of it. And he did it with the Migos. He does it with a lot of people. Like, he did it with a lot of people. Like, I didn't know who the Migos was until Chris did it. And Chris did a record with them, and I was like, yo, who are these three boys? Chris was always on the verge of figuring out the new, figuring out.
He lives on the edge.
He lives on the edge, and he pays attention, and he's not, he's the one that's not separated or segregated, and just trying to, like, sit around and, do it just one way. He was like, he pushed. This man had hip-hop, R&B, and pop hits all at the same time.
True. Down here, he's had hits with Wizkid. He's also had hits with Davido. Yeah. I mean, local hits in this country. Yes.
And global hits with these same people.
No, global hits, that's Chris Brown. But why I emphasize on local is it takes a lot for a foreign artist to blow here now.
Yes.
It takes a lot.
Yes.
So for a foreign artist to have a local hit.
Yes. No, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Listen, Nigeria's like France.
Yes.
They're not playing.
True.
Omar, we're not playing your song here.
Yeah.
We don't know you.
But when you crack it, you crack it.
Yes. But I think Chris has been supportive for so long. And he gives credit where it's due. We're talking 106 and Park. Yeah. And he talks about Wiz and coming to Nigeria and, the dance that he was doing. It's just like, come on, man. That's what I'm saying. Once you win over Nigerians, we support forever. And Chris I call him Oluwa Christopher. Sure. Oluwa Christopher Brown. You will always be Nigerian.
Sure. So we're going to be seeing you a lot more now that you're introducing something.
Yeah, I'm going to be in the forefront, doing a lot of collaborations, somewhat like, motivational, inspirational. I'm not a Khaled, but somewhat in that space where the collaborations are vast. Yeah. There might be a collaboration with, superhero like Janet. Yeah. There might be a collaboration with, with friends and family. Rotimi, Chris Brown, Chip, Tank, even some Ghanaian, Rich, you know what I'm saying? Like,
nice.
Just trying to, really use this to kind of keep us together and keep the conversation together. And I just think my music always has a little bit of a different energy with it. So I think that we're going to hear things that make people go, huh. Like my first single with Reekado.
Yeah.
It's called Tick Tick.
Yeah. I've heard it.
Yeah.
I love it.
and when I did the record, it was like, why did you take that? And like I said, there's an equation that comes in my head of if I add, it's like cooking. Yeah. When you're cooking jollof rice, you don't want it to be too saturated with soup.
Yeah.
You don't want it to be too dry.
Sure.
It's the right ingredients. If you put the right ingredients in a song, you can cause everybody to experience it, right? And that's what we call global hits. That's my goal, is to have those right ingredients, and an opportunity to put new artists with superstars, opportunity for kids who may never ever get the experience to work with someone that I have access to, So imagine a brand new act on a song with, Ty Dolla $ign from Nigeria.
Yeah, that's beauty.
You know what I'm saying? That's what we want to do, right? Use our platforms to do something new.
Come on. I want to get my final.
Come on, man.
Before the final question. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so
I'm gonna cheers you to that one.
yeah,
Cheers you to that one. Cheers.
cheers, man. Thank you so much. This has been very enjoyable for me.
I'm gonna sip a little bit. I haven't eaten, so
Thank you. Okay, I appreciate that.
yes,
So,
man.
for you, you've lived a very peculiar existence.
Say that again.
Yeah, exactly. Very peculiar existence. You've self-actualized by chasing your heart,
Yeah.
and now you're still chasing your heart by extending yourself and trying to create a new path, and by contributing to the culture in your own very unique way.
Yes, sir.
For me, I'm wondering, as someone who has experienced different levels of success, personally, culturally, how do you make sense of it all? Like beyond all of the wins, beyond everything. I know there's God on one angle, like at the bottom of it all, the
Yes.
foundation of it all. But how do you make sense of it all?
I just
Knowing
know-
that you're living a very peculiar, I use the word peculiar because a very individualistic experience
Yeah.
that enriches everything it touches.
I think my goal is to live a full life and know that I died empty, right?
Okay.
And I didn't subject myself to limitations because of my environment,
Yeah.
but to accept that my environment is what it is, learn from it and expand and grow, right? And I think the biggest molehill was leaving London to go to LA. That was the biggest, that was the hardest move,
Yeah.
right? Because London has an interesting way of keeping you stuck. They give you just enough. In America, they don't give you enough. So you go crazy and go figure it out. That's why it's boisterous, it's wild, it's like, they go like they like the underdog story.
Yeah.
It's built off the underdog story.
Yeah.
London's not so much built off the underdog story. London's very much
very regulated.
very regulated. Don't do too much. Don't say too much. Shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up there. Right? If you're doing too much, man, they'll tell you. Culture, they'll be like, man, you're doing too much, bro. He's doing too much in it, bro.
Yeah.
And so I had to find a way to live my dreams. Not only did my parents not accept what my dreams were, which is hard because I love my parents.
Yeah.
And they had a strong influence culturally, spiritually, religiously.
Yeah.
I had to fight that. And I had to become the disobedient child that walked out the house at 17 years old. Then I had to fight racism and music industry politics of we don't care that you're from where you're from and what you want to do. To the point when one executive was like, you should just move to America because, you don't fit here. And then moving to America, being discovered, and then being told you don't fit there. Because, you're European. Your drums don't sound like us. Your music doesn't sound like us. Because I was. But I didn't fit here and I didn't fit there. But I knew that at some point, if I could just find a way to fuse them all together, and then it's my final step. I'm here now, right? And now I'm taking in all of Africa. I'm taking all of Nigeria. I'm listening. I want to see the people. I'm looking at the people in their eyes. I'm looking at the poverty. I'm looking at the win and the successes. I'm looking at the beautiful homes. I'm looking at the shanties. And I'm just like, whoa. And I think for me, it's to live it out to the point where I just want every teenager to know it can do anything. Every child to know I can do anything I put my mind to. everything I put my mind to, I'm going to do. Not that I can, I'm going to do it, because he had all those limitations. He had all those regulations. He had to go through regulations. He had to go through racism. He had to go through religion. He had to go through, and then we're in a time where we had the internet. At the time I started my career, there was no internet. Yeah. So it was plain or nothing. You know what I'm saying? And we didn't have podcasts.
Nah, none of that.
Laptop.
No, none of that.
Record vocals in a room. Nah, bro. If you want, the first time I went into a studio, I almost passed out because I was just like, what is this? So I feel like, I have to leave this legacy of difference and change, and to let all these kids know that it doesn't matter where you're from, what area you're from, what color you are, what religion background you are. If there's a dream inside of you, you can live it. And if you go for it, even if you're in poverty. My parents were illegal immigrants. They didn't come to London with like red palio and just like, hey, welcome to London.
You were a question mark?
There was question marks, bro. Like my parents, is when I got older that I understood. Mom, there's someone at the door. Tell them we're not here. But you're here.
Yeah, but I'm not here, bro.
Tell them I'm not here.
I'm not here.
Okay. And so anybody that was white, my parents are not in. Do you understand what I mean? Because we were protecting ourselves, right? So there was a lot of things I didn't get to experience because of the limitations, right? Yeah. Going to school, being called an African batty cleaner. Yeah. You smell like panla. Yeah.
No, we can laugh about it, but back then,
bro, it was tough.
Yeah, it was.
Jamaicans were the cool culture, Caribbeans were the cool culture, so you kind of like had to pretend like you was Caribbean when you weren't. Yeah. So that you were accepted. Like these things were deep. And then my parents moved to an area where so we could have better education, and I ended up going to all white Catholic school. So you could almost imagine how hard that was, being Nigerian, growing up in a hood with all the drug man them and everything in the street man them, and then going to all white Catholic school and then going to church. That was my week.
That's overstimulation.
It's a lot of stimulation. But here's what it made me who I am, because while I'm listening to all this music, I got into rock music, Oasis, Coldplay, White Stripes, Red Hot Chili Peppers, all because of the school I went to that opened my mind. I was in a rock band as a 12-year-old in school playing the drums, and it also helped me. So when in my career, and my first placement in America was Maroon 5. Yeah. And everybody was like, who's this black British boy working on Maroon 5? And I'm coming in with my jeans and looking like I make hip hop. It was just confusing, but everything was for a reason. And I just need all these youngsters to know that everything happens for a reason, and the light's at the end of the tunnel. Okay.
I think we gotta wrap this up.
Come on, man. Firstly, I want to say thank you, because you're like our Joe Rogan. You know that, right?
I try.
So you do know, for me, this is a really big deal, and I watch you religiously. I follow you religiously.
Thank you. It's a big deal for me too.
Thank you for what you're doing for the culture, man. We need the conversation.
Thank you.
We need the perspective.
Thanks for agreeing to do this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
and thank you for the...
Listen, your bottle is on its way.
I'm going to treasure it
Never fall short.
Thank you.
My brother.
Thank you.
For sure.